which is kind of cool, given that there are absolutely no foreigners in this group whatsoever. Anyhow, spawning over in the top left-hand side, over on Manchester side as our red Protoss, it is PartinG.
And that, of course, means that on the bottom right side of Romantic side, we're taking a look at the main base of the man who finally won the tournament for all the Protoss nerds out there. It is Trap.
I just looked at the webcam, Skev. Do you know what?
His hair is bald, mate.
Yeah. I was just looking at Trap's hair, and I was like, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Todd during like 2008 or something, when he went to a hairdresser, you know, and like he was like, the hairdresser burnt my hair, and like he was all ginger and stuff. It was great.
I just feel like he has so much hair. Like, obviously, Trap always had a decent amount of hair, but this is next level. I mean, the barbershops here are close too, so I know how it feels. My hair is getting a little longer than I would like to have it too, but I've rarely seen him with that much hair.
Yeah, me too. Oh, that is, wow, that's a Roddy wall.
Mate, I never build my gateways near the ramp, so it's a lot of things, but it's definitely not a Roddy wall.
Oh, I had to say about, yeah, I know. I was watching your stream, I was like, oh, because I wanted to learn a little bit of Protoss, you know, and it was like, he never wards off in PvP. What is this madness? Like, if I was doing that in PvP, I just get freaking adepts in my base every game, I swear.
Yeah, well, most people open stalkers against me because adepts are not very good against phoenixes, so that's why I'm not too worried about it. But I think this works out. I mean, it's a bit different. It's just odd. I mean, some players have their own personal little preferences. Maybe this works out in certain or scenarios where you get pressured and you rather lose a pylon than you want to lose your cybercore or your gateway. But what is PartinG up to?
Kevin, I do want to bring this up. You know how there's like usually proxy pylons and stuff? How do you feel about this pylon placement? Because this seems very in your face, honestly.
Yeah, but that's almost the best way to put anything these days. I mean, obviously, when it gets scouted immediately, we're going to look very silly. But people look for things in the corners of the map, the obvious proxy locations. Nobody in his right mind would proxy anything there. And because nobody would do it, you often don't scout it. We'll see if Trap moves out with his stalkers, he's going to run into it immediately, and that would be fantastic. But this is probably why PartinG is keeping this probe in the back of the main base too, because if PartinG's stalkers show up before Trap stalkers even get there, Trap still has no idea he's facing the very aggressive tree gate opening here out of PartinG.
Yeah, PartinG's been throwing all his chrono boost on. Oh, it's gonna mess with the pathing as well, because it's absolutely blocked off here. So Trap is like, what the hell is this crazy guy doing to me? And yeah, I just saw his eyes in the webcam. He was like, what the shit is going on here?
Well, I mean, getting the scout is still big, though. Now, obviously, it can only be really one thing, and that's the straight-up tree gate. PartinG is expanding behind this, but obviously the expand is A, later, and B, nobody really wants to play a macro game while casually losing a gateway and a pylon early on. So you still want to get some damage done here. I think it's going to be very hard for PartinG, though. You kind of have to go up a ramp. There are shield batteries that Trap can fall back to. And with some force fields, I actually think he should be the one getting the better trade.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I really like Trap's position here, but you can never count out PartinG because he is a crazy, crazy boy, and that's a big amount of stalkers turning up.
I love that he gets a couple of shots off, runs back immediately, gets a stalker kill, loses one stalker. But if I'm PartinG here, I'd be so afraid to do this because force fields, there's so many force fields available. He actually kills the sentry before a single force field goes down. I mean, it's a trade. A lot of gas going down the drain here, of course, for Trap. I think Trap could have done this a little bit better, but I still don't hate it. Now we do have 3 adepts showing up, though. Is there a probe on top of the ramp? The answer is yes.
You know, the one I think PartinG slightly messed up with his volleys there. Like, it was a lot of scattered damage between the stalkers all firing at different times. And Trap, I kind of like his position now, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know if we should go out this far with our sentries, because sentries are a little bit slower. So far, so good for Trap, and he will make it back home safely to the shield batteries. And the adepts were actually kind of nice, not just potentially to shade into the main base, but adepts do a lot of damage against sentries. So that would have been very nice to keep those alive too. Was a bit complicated, and maybe the force fields could have been a tiny bit more effective in the beginning. But overall, I think a very successful hold for Trap.
Yeah, and I mean, his tech's faster. He doesn't have the precarious position of having a bit of his tech, or rather like a gateway on the map and stuff, because as soon as PartinG falls back from this position, you can bet your bottom dollar Trap's going to move out, and that's going to be the first place that he attacks.
Yeah. I actually think as soon as the well-known Immortal is out, I would love to see a War Prism come out of Trap. Now, the one downside for Trap in losing 2 sentries early on is that he doesn't really have a proper scout. I think he would have loved to send a hallucinated Phoenix to the other side of the map to confirm that PartinG is indeed expanding.
Yeah, I mean, that is a massive point that you bring up. Like, he has no idea what's going on behind this. Is this a one-base all-in? Is it getting crazy? What is the tech choice of my opponent? He has no clue whatsoever, and I guess that's what PartinG is kind of banking on here.
Yep. Now, PartinG is the one who has a lot of sentries in the mix too, so he could potentially look to shave off a couple of units, but it's be very risky because there is Big Daddy Immortal in the mix. Is PartinG gonna drop force fields? The answer is yes, and they are good, Ben. I actually really like these force fields. Gets 2 Stalker kills immediately. Not sure if we're gonna get number 3. I do think it's time to maybe go home, but PartinG disagrees. He wants to take a fight, drops a few more force fields, picks off a sentry, but there is that War Prism for Trap, so it's double Immortal into Prism. Now it still becomes pretty hard, I think, for PartinG on his side of the map. He's got 1 force field, but the Immortal count at this point is 2 against 0.
He's got 4 Adepts in his main base as well. Denied a lot of mining there. Killed 6 probes already. I'm a bit surprised he didn't just try and stay in that main, honestly. I think coming down to the natural was a bit of an over-eager move by PartinG there.
Yeah, I'm with you. That would have actually been better to stick around in the main, because then it's more lost mining time, and it takes a lot longer for Trap to clean all of this up. And the longer it takes, the better it would be for PartinG, because he's the one mining more, and that also means he can catch up in the Immortal count. I'm surprised that we see a Robo Bay go down now for PartinG. Maybe he just feels that he really will never die because he's got a couple of defensive batteries and he has a few sentries to help out in the defense. But he was actually in a mighty fine spot. It's still going to be a bit tricky, I think, not to take either damage in the main base or the natural.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, like, his army's still kind of decent. Gets a Stalker here before anything happens as well. But a Warp Prism with 2 Immortals, that is something you have to respect in PvP.
PartinG feeling very confident, has a lot of Stalkers in the main. The fact that he has a War Prism too is very nice to help out with the defensive micro, just in case if Trap would land a couple of good force fields. And it seems like the Robo Bay was the correct choice. You gotta be so careful here, Trap. My goodness. He is still gonna unload the Immortals in the main base and just wants to take out a couple of Stalkers. So far, so good, and he gets out of there, Ben. This micro. Oh my goodness, another War Prism of PartinG with 3 Stalkers is hunting down the Prism of Trap. The thing is, you cannot unload 3 Stalkers in range of 2 Immortals because they will melt.
He certainly will, and PartinG tries anyhow with those Immortals. By the way, what do you think? Like, the Adept Glaive follow-up against the Disruptor? Like, I feel that this is all leading in favor of PartinG, right?
Is heavily leading in favor of PartinG, because in the past we've seen a lot of these Adept timings hit before the first Disruptor is even out, and then you need to buy some time with force fields and shield batteries. This is perfect. Does Trap not know, right? He didn't see the Robo Bay, I assume. He did see it, so he knows there is a Robotics Bay.
And he knows about the Disruptor as well. Like, he just spotted it with the hallucination, whether he saw it or not. But yeah, PartinG's still trying to get something done with some Adepts, like shading on by, but Trap's doing a good job of denying that.
Oh,
this is going to be a proper chunky all-in here.
Uh-oh, the War Prism is actually going to go down here. Trap has literally overextended, and now the force fields go down too. So it's not just the Prism, it's the 2 Immortals on top of it. The Fierce Purification Nova completely misses, but this army of Trap is simply not powerful enough as PartinG has 2 Immortals in the mix too. He is a little trigger happy with the Purification Novas. I don't think that was necessary, but PartinG is playing a marvelous game.
Yeah, he's now up to 3 bases with like superior, or rather, his 3rd base is very close to being done. Trap, he's on a clock here. He's kind of supply blocked as well. I know he's got a couple of pylons finishing, but this is going to be so hard for him. And now he's trying to wrap between, like, which angle do I go for? Romanticide, it's very hard to shimmy about.
I mean, this should technically never work, but if I'm Trap, I'd probably just look for a Nexus kill and then try to get home and turn this game into something else. And the army positioning of PartinG so far is good. I don't think PartinG really has to worry that much, because the Adepts, they like to clump up, they like to stick together, and that means that every Nova is a good one. I think this is all that Trap really wants here. He wants to take out the Nexus, and then he can always decide to turn around and go home again. I don't think PartinG had to lose the Nexus there. I understand it's risky with all these Adepts with Resonating Glaive. So we have a couple of good force fields go down. I think PartinG could have done a bit better.
Yeah, I was looking at this, and I was looking at 2 armies. Like, if PartinG kind of kept his 2 disruptors there just to fire some shots and even buy some time. Like, he could have bought time. I don't think he had to worry. Oh my god, is that another warp? Whew. Trap is playing with fire with his warp prism.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's not that Trap had a good way to dive on top of those disruptors, right? The only thing he could have maybe done is shade all the adepts on top of it, but adepts don't really one-shot disruptors like Stalkers can in big numbers. Well, at least that is good news for us. It means we still have a very competitive game. I still am totally okay with the position that PartinG is in, as he is landing a couple of Novas in the main base, but he does lose the Prism, so he needs to recall these disruptors home. I mean, it's still pretty damn good for the disruptor player. It has to be, but we still have a game on our hands.
What a wild set of events, though, right? Like, moving across the map with the adepts and us both thinking it's very good for PartinG, which I still think it is good for PartinG, and especially with losing the Warp Prism and the 2 Immortals. I think this just shows how solid Trap is as a player, the fact that he's still in this.
Yep, and I also just love that he only went for the Nexus and didn't think like, well, I've got all these adepts, I need to fight now. The fight would have never been good, especially not near the batteries. Oh, the Disruptors kind of misrallied. Oh no, PartinG is making a very big mistake. The Disruptors are left all by themselves, and all 4 of them will be donated. Oh, I mean, we loved it for PartinG. We didn't see that one coming.
No, we didn't. I have no idea what happened just then. I know he was probably distracted by this Warp Prism in his main, like near his 3rd now and such, but what a disaster.
It's kind of a troll. I mean, the rest of the army of PartinG here is still decent. Trap has a lot of units coming in from the other angle, but Trap feeling super confident to blink on top of this army. It's kind of an ugly blink. He does finally get the Warp Prism. He gets the Immortal, and the rest of the army of PartinG is now just kind of surrounded. 2 Immortals are not participating in this fight, but even without those 2 Immortals, man, I still think it was more than decent for Trap, who is feeling confident enough that he can keep pushing. Oh man, I can't believe it. Losing 4 disruptors like that is so painful. PartinG, you've got a disruptor. Can you fire? Yes. Near a shield battery. It's a pretty decent hit. It's a lot of damage on the Immortals, but...
Oh, I mean, this goes from bad to worse for PartinG, right? Like, although these probes, they can tank very good against this, and the Immortal goes down immediately. I mean, if PartinG's going to win a fight, this is it, but nah, I mean, too much DPS for Trap, and it looked like that Backstalker was dancing there a little bit for him, and there's no shield battery overcharge available. The supplies are pretty close, but a nice play by PartinG, honestly.
Yep, pulling the probes was nice, gave him a little bit of extra buffer, but there were still 4 or 5 adepts in the mix with resonating glaives. If those adepts weren't there, those probes would have had a lot more impact. I mean, this is so silly, as now Trap has 4 more Stalkers just casually running into the 3rd base of PartinG. PartinG probably wondering where the hell are these units even coming from in the first place, and now he's feeling like, you know what, I'm just gonna push. I've got 1 disruptor. Maybe I can land an amazing Nova and make some magic happen.
I love that you and I always get blessed with these kind of games, Kevin. Like, we have literally just gone to the circus, but PartinG, he still can deal a lot of damage. Like, this disruptor, it has a lot banking on it, but I think Trap... Oh, nice positioning by Trap, honestly. Gets the disruptor. Nice play.
Yep, and Trap is still having a 10 advantage or 10 worker lead during all of this. The Warp Prism shows up a little bit late. I would blink forward, get that Prism, and that is exactly what Trap will do as well. And I think that's going to do it here for game 1 on Romanticide, as PartinG is forced to tap out. GG, the circus, man. I love that, because I think that is the best way to describe this 13-minute Clown Fiesta. It was so good for PartinG. Oh, 4 disruptors like that in the center of the map. That's a bit too much of a donation to still win a game against Trap.
I mean, the amount of donations that were going on in that game were incredible. Like the Warp Prism at the top, like we talked about it. When it was in the main, it was like, oh, don't be too crazy with it. And then it went in again, and like he ended up losing the 2 Immortals. But then the donation of 4 disruptors wildly walking in the middle of the map, like, I feel if PartinG doesn't win that game, what kind of game does he win against Trap? Because, I mean, that was so back and forth, and that truly was a bit of a clown fiesta between these guys. And that just showed, like, to me, that obviously was not peak from either of them, but it was really fun.
It was really fun. It was really intense and was impossible to say he was going to win it. At first, it felt the build order shaped up very nicely for Trap, but PartinG did a really good job in shaving off a couple of the sentries, keeping Trap in the dark, and nobody is like very comfortable to just build 10, 12 additional probes if you don't even know your opponent has expanded or not. And that's why PartinG was able to just get an expand up and running, create a little worker advantage for himself. Then he went into Disrupt this immediately. I was like, that's a little ambitious, but turned out to be the perfect call against the Resonating Glaive's follow-up. Trap somehow still gets the Nexus, and from that point on, all hell broke loose. And I do think it came down to the Disruptors in the end, because PartinG's army was so much better than Trap's army.
You're totally right, because like as soon as Trap started kind of moving away from his natural and moving down that ramp, that's when PartinG's force fields as well really came into play, right? Like he was doing so well with it. But then like it felt after that was done, PartinG was so scared to fight at his own third to save it. Like it definitely something was a bit off with him. Anyhow, spawning over in the top right-hand side, playing as the blue Protoss, it is Trap.
And in the bottom left side, this man could very well be cannon rushing on this map. We know that he's capable of pulling out a cannon rush every now and then. Our red Protoss spotting.
This is so weird though, right? Like, if it was a cannon rush, he'd have already had a probe out, no? Or
no, he would have. But I was like, PartinG does things in mysterious ways, and maybe
yes.
there is something different about it when he wants to show his probes. But Trap is doing it the way that all the Europeans are doing it. Pylon on the low ground, Gateway on the low ground. You could actually steal a gas here. I'm very surprised that he wouldn't want to steal our gas. I feel like stealing a gas is always very big in PvP.
So PartinG's going for the fastest Nexus possible after the Gateway, kind of foreseeing that he's going to be against a Gateway on the low ground expansion. Oh my god, is he... Okay, if he steal...
He doesn't want to spend the minerals now. He wants to get his own Nexus up. But I think maybe after he has his Nexus and his Cybercore, at this point at least PartinG cannot take the gas. That is impossible because that probe is on hold position near it.
Right.
I mean, it's just a bit different that PartinG decided to build this gateway on the high ground, but in a way, he was still able to get his Nexus down. Trap does steal the gas in the end, and PartinG has not built a Zealot yet, man.
This is really weird. Like,
cancels it. Okay.
So I guess in Trap's head, if PartinG was to make a gas on the low ground, his Nexus is going to be done in time. That doesn't even matter, right? So like economically, it's fine. This feels very much like when I watched you play, Kev, and I know but I'm bringing this up for a very good reason. Building all your infrastructure, not at the ramp or anything. Your probes obviously don't have very far to run. By the way, this is super crazy. So it's as greedy as possible on the mineral front. So gets up his Nexus faster. He's actually 4-gating with a gate being made in the main base of Trap. This is wild.
Yes, and it's not exactly hidden. I mean, Trap has been on top of all of this. Trap's gonna go for the full wall off. If I'm Trap here, I'm pulling probes, by the way. There's like no reason not to pull probes. Warp gate is halfway done, but come on, you can't let this just go up. Okay, that's a lot of pylons, and I can understand that's hard. I wouldn't even mind a Zealot after this Stalker, just so you have some extra DPS there. Trap, what are we gonna do, mate? You know that this is not a fake. He has a battery in the natural, which I think is kind of funny. Because, yeah, I think we want to get stuff in the main base. I am shocked that he never decided to pull probes to take out all these pylons. Because I think he would have had some time. 10 seconds until Warp Gate finishes up. And then we need to pull probes. Because PartinG is going to warp in 4 units at a time.
And what units is he going to warp in? Do you think it's going to be as many Stalkers as possible?
Yeah, it has to be Stalkers. I think it has to be Stalkers. Because if Zealot... Okay, no, it's going to be Zealots?
Adepts.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty wild. I mean, if it was the Stalkers and they were against Stalkers with the shield battery there, 2 of them, in fact, I think he'd have been in real trouble, right? With the Adepts, at least he gets to deal economic damage.
Yeah, this is, in a way, this is very cool. A lot of probes will fall, but this is a massive investment by PartinG. So getting 6-7 probes is not enough. I think we need a whole lot more. We are going to warp in 4 additional Adepts, and I think at this point, Trap is like, what the hell is actually happening? What are you doing? This is actually starting to snowball out of control a little bit. 11 probes have gone down, and PartinG is not done yet.
I mean, the Adepts are killing the probes faster than the Adepts can die. I like that Trap gets his own Adepts to deal that extra damage, given the bonus light damage, but even if this Gateway and Pylons get cleared up now,
yeah,
kind of like PartinG's position, honestly.
No, I love PartinG's position. I can't believe how effective this is, but it's absolutely working out in a very big way. 17 probes have gone down. PartinG's big brain is striking again. I don't know how you explain this, man. Today is just a very wild day. StarCraft 2. Look at the amount of attempts. He's gonna kill all the probes pretty much. Trap is gonna be left with like 9 probes.
I can't believe what I'm seeing. Like 32 probes versus 13, and we look a little bit down from Trap's main base. He's got a. This is some StarCraft. Like, this is some real StarCraft shenanigans. Okay, so I don't think Trap or PartinG can warp in anymore here. This is going to get cleaned up, so it's going to be resources lost. But as long as he plays it safe and makes all the right calls, he is so far ahead in this game.
Yep, we have a Robo going down for PartinG. In a game like this, I would actually love to see him drop a Stargate too, knowing that there's not much that Trap can really do right now offensively. I think that Phoenix Immortal will just always reign supreme here. PartinG's got an 18 worker advantage. That is absolutely outrageous. And yeah, then all of a sudden you don't care too much that you lost 4 or 5 pylons and a gateway, your opponent's main. 18 workers ahead. But
Okay, Kev, I'm going to say something here. This is one of the only games I've ever seen where one player has literally lost more than double the amount of resources lost in a game, but is significantly ahead in every way, shape, and form. Like, just incredible.
You know, to kind of show how... I mean, I don't know what PartinG was doing there, but he was building a gateway, cancelled it, built a gateway again, cancelled it. He's trying to get the ideal gateway placement on top of his ramp. Like, Trap is going for a War Prism now, which doesn't surprise me, because Trap obviously needs to find a way to get back into this game. And this is why I said even a Stargate would have been a decent investment, considering how far PartinG was ahead. I think having Immortals to be safe on the ground, and then having Phoenixes to shut down any shenanigans and any comeback potential, I think would have been a really good choice, given the economies that we were working with.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the things now. Like, Trap, he knows he's behind, and he's going to have to adopt some crazy plays of his own. And that's what we kind of see here with the Robo-Bay on the way. The thing is, he's got a mountain to climb from this point on. He really does.
It's a really good scout here. Trap is going to see the majority of the gateways, or pretty much all the gateways. And he's now going to... He already knows about the Robo. He's going to see that I think PartinG is heading towards his way. Defensive Disruptors could be amazing here, because PartinG does not have Blink. PartinG doesn't really have a whole lot of great ways to avoid Purification Novas. I mean, yeah, it's a crap ton of units, Ben, but I'm actually a little bit concerned still. Attacking upper ramp in PvP can be difficult. Attacking into batteries is very difficult. And I feel that every Nova is going to be money, but Trap needs his Disruptors now sooner than later.
Yeah, he definitely does. And he doesn't have any Immortal or anything to, like, really help with this. I mean, these are nice Force Seals to buy time, but again, the Warp Prism's going to do a good job of keeping stuff alive. And he's going to open up the door for this Disruptor to get magic done here, and he does see it. Let's see what the first shot gets done. Too early.
Soon. I think you gotta wait. I mean, time is on your side here. It's not on the side of the guy who clearly wants to end the game. And that means this Disruptor is in a bit of trouble. The force fields are not good enough, as there is still a hole in the wall. That means all these units are PartinG are just gonna run straight into the natural, and that I think is going to do it, man. Battery overcharge is great, but it will not save Trap here. GG. PartinG with an incredibly wild strategy. I can't believe it, but I love it. I love it.
This is one of those moments where I can imagine PartinG in his head. He's like, man, Twitch chat, like, they told me to go a gateway in his base into 4-gate after I just did what I did. Amazing, I'm going to do it. But yeah, bloody great play by PartinG. We were both like bewildered as to what he was going to do. It was amazing. Guys and girls, we're going to get back to a break and we'll find out who wins this crazy series for Phoenix 2 right on after. Hello again, guys, and if you've just tuned in, you will have to watch that second game between PartinG and Trap, because honestly, we've just been smiling in the break, talking about it, being like, that reminded me of the Wings of Liberty days, where it was like Waltgate took 30 seconds, just throwing down pylons in your opponent's base. They can't kill the pylons fast enough, the Zealots come. Like, PartinG, he's a magic player, man. Like, he really is. I'm so happy he's in the scene, because I don't think any Protoss, maybe besides Max Packs, could come up with anything quite like that.
Yep, it really felt like the 2021 version of the Korean 4-gate we had 11 years ago. A bit different. This man seemed as confused as we were, because basically everything he did was quite suboptimal against the adept rush of his opponent, but he's still in it. Let's see if he can continue his winning streak against his opponent. It is Trap.
And spawning over in the top right-hand side, you love him because he's crazy. It is PartinG.
The absolute biggest of brains.
Yeah,
you know, man, it doesn't happen often that one guy is rushing the other dude. The other dude has 3 shield batteries, and none of them mattered. Like, that doesn't really... How do you explain that, right? It's like, well, it's just they were not exactly in the right position to be dealing with a whole bunch of adepts.
No, and that's the thing, right? Like, we were talking about what is PartinG going to warp in, because it feels like, is anything really going to work out? But the adepts were the super good call, because it's like the one unit comp that, A, they can be everywhere at once, and they're going to be two-shotting the workers. And, you know, it was just perfect decision-making by him. I'm still wondering, like, there's probably a lot that Trap could have done differently. Mm-hmm. Like, we talked about it. There's only one spot that PartinG can warp in, which is aggressively right there. Maybe... if he had like the 2 stalkers, 3 stalkers maybe, or even made adepts early and having the probes to wrap around the units, really stopping them from getting all over his base quickly. But yeah, it's something that we've never seen before, honestly.
Well, I really think if you open up with a 1-gate fast expand and then you see stuff happening in your main, I don't see the harm in building a Zealot. And I think having a Zealot there really would have had a pretty big impact. I'm not saying you would have killed all 5 pylons if you don't pull all your probes or something, but imagine indeed having a Zealot, then you see your opponent warping in 4 adepts, you have Zealots, probes, and a Stalker there. Like, one Zealot is pretty much going to take out one entire adept before the warp-in is done, and then they are surrounded, so they need to shade, and you take so much damage already. You might get a couple kills, but I think Trap just had never seen it before, just like we. I mean, it was pretty obvious that his build was going to be good against Zealots, his build was going to be good against Stalkers. It just wasn't very good against Adepts. Can't really blame him for it though, it's just a very wild build. We'll see what Game 3 has in store for us, as this time it's Trap who is proxying a Stargate, and this is about as quick of a proxy Stargate as you can get these days. PartinG is looking for something though with his Stalker. His Stalker is in a bit of an adventure, and this is a big scout for PartinG. My goodness, this has a very big impact. I think you could... I would go for the pylon.
I think he's gonna. I think he wants the Stargate to finish first.
Yep.
And he's out of vision right now. So is he going to be able to stop these adepts from getting in the base? Yes, he is as well. By the way, I really like this positioning of the pylon, the 2 gates, and the cyber core, because the opening on his side is actually way closer to his minerals, so he can pull a probe to there much faster, right?
Yep, I love it. PartinG waiting indeed until that Stargate finished up, and he's going to start working on the pylon. The bad thing is that he wasn't paying attention to the extra probe showing up, so there's going to be another pylon. Going to try to power this Stargate. First pylon will go down though. I don't know if this Oracle comes out, because 4 Stalkers have a lot of DPS. This is going to be really close, but I actually think PartinG has done enough here, and he will prevent that Oracle from popping. There are 2 Adepts very close to killing the shield battery band, and they will get it. So the Adepts of Trap get in. Come run to the minerals, mate. Yes. Shots are a bit out of sync.
I mean, like, obviously using the probes, it feels kind of like, why is he doing that? But killing one adept as fast as possible is super important, just because now this adept can't really do anything, and he does get a scout off, which is also a big deal, getting to see it is a Void Ray and stuff. I'm surprised he hasn't, I was about to say, cancel that Oracle, mate. Like, that's money that you've got to spend somewhere.
Yeah, well, he was trying to get it up again. I think there was one more of them, because Trap sent a couple of Stalkers towards the Stargate, trying to protect the Stargate. But that really kind of backfired too, as he lost the Stalker, and he was forced to recall the other one while we were paying attention to the Adepts. Now, PartinG has a Void Ray, and we just kind of scuffed over it. Like, yeah, he's got a Void Ray, and we see Void Rays a bit more. This is still a pretty odd moment to have a Void Ray. I don't think I'm in love with it, but let's see what our big boy is able to accomplish with it.
With a couple of sentries as well, like he is having a pretty large force outside this base, but we all know that a shield battery, especially with overcharge, can absolutely work wonders, but trap?
No energy for overcharge. There's no energy for overcharge, man.
Oh, and that sentry is very low immediately, which getting rid of one sentry, that could be a nice little victory for Trap thus far. This is again, these guys, they're having weird ass games.
Yep, everything is just a bit off today so far, but it's obviously very fun because we're not seeing the same openings we've already seen a million times, and both places macroing up, nothing happening. There's a lot of action in a 5-minute game. Obviously, PartinG cannot know what we know. He didn't know that no overcharge was available. But I actually think, Ben, if he drops force fields there, activates prismatic alignment, he gets an amazing fight with 4 Stalkers, 2 Sentries, and a Void Ray against 4 Stalkers, 2 Sentries, and a Shield Battery. No overcharge. I think that's a fight you'll gladly take if you would have the information that we have.
You're probably right, actually. And you know what I was looking at then? I was looking at that Void Ray, like, returning home from that fight, and I'm like, what are you even doing here anyway? Like, what was his plan to go, like, Stargate into Void Ray? I mean, most likely wasn't, right, with going to Stargate like that, but I'm still wondering what he's gonna do with it from this point on.
I think PartinG is wondering the same. What am I going to do with this thing? I mean, it's kind of nice to casually have a Void Ray in your army. You know, it does do a lot of damage against Stalkers, especially when you activate Prismatic Alignment. But the entire Stargate has been a bit odd for PartinG because he scouted the Stargate of Trap, and like, I think responding to a Stargate with your own Stargate is not bad. But then he did such an amazing job in shutting down that Stargate that I think he was just kind of confused about what he wanted to do with his own. And he's like, well, let's make a Void Ray, and if there was no shield battery, that Void Ray could have very well won the game, but I think it's just the fact that Trap did have that one battery that made PartinG change his mind.
Yeah, this is very ballsy by Trap, and he's in the main base, and sentries, he can actually force field him out, but PartinG's own blink is very close to being done. When I say very close, it feels like eons at this point in time. Cybernetics Cold Game Photos, the Void Ray goes down as well. This is very rough for PartinG.
Yeah, I think it's actually okay. With all the probes there, there's his shield battery doing a decent job. Now, I do like that blink by Trap. That's obviously where he wants to be. If I'm PartinG, I am gunning down this prism, no matter at what cost. But I guess at this point, it's not that dangerous. Now we're going to get an extra warp in again, though. Oh, what are we going to do? Are we going for the prism or not? He won't go for the prism, so he just wants to fight his army instead. Not sure if that's gonna go well. I mean, there's still that battery in the back that can give a little bit of extra HP to the units of PartinG. I think PartinG will push this back eventually, but the damage has been dealt, right? Trap has now created a 25 worker advantage for himself.
In more ways than one, this series went all the way back to Wings of Liberty. Nice snipe on the Warp Prism, but I mean, Trap, he doesn't want to trade in efficiently against this, and PartinG is on the hunt, but he has to get so much done. So we've had pylons and gateways in bases with warp-ins in bases. We've had, like, the Warp Prism fly in on the, like, main base blocked off. This has been great to watch.
Man, imagine if PartinG would have just had blink 3, 4, 5 seconds earlier. I think when Trap made that offensive blink deep into the main base, while the probes were being pulled, there was a battery on the right side. I actually think that could have been a very good fight for PartinG, but it's just those extra seconds. It felt like it was taking centuries. And PartinG lost so damn much. He's building a prism. I think PartinG knows that he kind of just needs to end this game, but how do you end the game when you're down 23 workers, soon down to be a base, and you actually have a less impressive army than your opponent?
Yeah, like everything's running badly, and Trap is doing something very different than we saw Rogue do in its series. Like, when he's ahead, he's just kind of getting more ahead, right? Like, he's expanding, he's not going for the all-in approach here. And this is, he's just putting PartinG in a worse and worse spot as time goes by, and he's forcing PartinG to make moves which he doesn't want to make.
Yeah, I would have almost said maybe try to go for the main and drop a couple force fields on the ramp. That could be your only chance. But that is not going to happen. GG, Trap.